Rajdeep, to begin with you, these are times when, yes, we've lost 275 lives, and, we need to look in terms of where does the accountability lie? Do you think it's too early to ask?
Well, look, accountability, according to me, is the critical question, without speculation. I think that's that is the concern. It is less than a week since this tragedy has occurred, so it would be premature to conclude what really happened to AI 171. But my worry is that once the media moves on to the next story, once AI 171 in some ways becomes a distant memory, will the focus on accountability be there or not? And I only cite previous air crashes. You can go back to Bengaluru 2010, you can go back to the Kozhikode crash a few years ago. There is a lack of transparency. I am only calling for transparency and accountability. I am not in any way suggesting who is responsible for the air crash, what is it, that's experts have to decide. But I don't want that paper to be in some dusty cupboard in the Ministry of Civil Aviation. That is unacceptable. If I was the family of a victim, I want closure, if I at all can get some, only if there is accountability in our system. Whether it's an air crash or a stampede, unfortunately, history suggests we do not have enough accountability in our system. And eventually, in many such crashes, you blame pilot error, and the poor pilot is not there to defend himself.
But I want to bring in Naga there. Like he's a trained Naga Arjun, my colleague who's joining us from Bengaluru. We've teleported him from Bengaluru right here. But Naga, how do you look into all of this? Because you're standing at a point where the black box, there are some issues with it. In all probabilities, we're going to send it abroad for a larger investigation. One of the engines, the right engines of AI 171 just 3 months ago was overhauled. There are so many questions swirling about. Where we talk about closure, Naga, I don't think there will ever be any closure for the loved ones who lost their family on board 171. But some answers, what happened?
It's a larger question that we have to answer, Preeti. Yes, there's no closure for the loved ones. It's absolutely painful to lose your family members and friends in this air crash, and you have no answers for months together as to what happened. But there's larger question is the aviation infrastructure in India. Are we equipped enough? The airlines operate end-to-end, minute-to-minute, but there's pilot fatigue, there is technical fatigue. Both ground staff and the airline staff are completely fatigued. We have had instances where pilots have died of heart attack at boarding gates. That's the level of fatigue we are talking about. At minimum rest, they are flying at maximum, maximum utilization of their of themselves. That's the question that we have to answer. Technical glitches keep happening, but how equipped are the pilots mentally and physically to handle these emergencies? That's the big question. Do you know the notice period for a captain in India is 1 year? If I put my papers as an airline captain, I have to serve 1 year notice period. Imagine the amount of stress that he would be having. Which other airline would wait for me to join the 13th month after serving the notice period 12 months? So there are larger infrastructure and also mental well-being questions to be asked on pilots. One, and also there is DGCA completely in, it's working 20 years, 25 years back. Look at FAA, look at CAA. They're much, much ahead in terms of their policy, in terms of their training, infrastructure. It's up to the date and state of the art. But somewhere in India, we lack the technical expertise, but we put up a face that we know everything. First, we have to accept we are not as good as the Western countries are in terms of training and policies. That's where transparency starts. Like Rajdeep mentioned, it's not just one crash. We'll forget in a week and India will move ahead. But still, the larger question has to be answered. Transparency starts from training till the air crash investigation.
Siddharth, would you want to weigh in? 3 months ago, the right engine of this aircraft was overhauled. Was there maintenance oversight? That's a glaring question now that needs to be investigated, especially we'll know more once, we know what really is where the black box or what it tells us. But lots of questions, you had the former Civil Aviation Minister Praful Patel raise his own set of questions.
Well, very clearly, and I think Praful Patel is in a minority of one at this stage to have questioned Singapore Airlines. We haven't heard from Singapore Airlines with regard to some of the specific comments that were made.
But the Air India CEO has actually gone on record to say that Singapore Airlines has done what it had to do.
Yeah, it's an investor. But, right. what is the broader health of India's aviation industry? And I think we need to take that into account, that this sector, which is continuing to fly more and more Indians. In fact, there's been almost 7% passenger growth in the month of April and May this year. Losses have increased. Our aviation sector today, all airlines face a situation of high ATF costs, high lease rentals, and most importantly, supply side disruptions where many of the massive orders, numbers of hundreds of aircraft that the two leading airlines in India have put out on order, there are delays in delivery also on account of that, and therefore lease rental costs have also gone up. So is aviation a very profitable business for all Indian airlines? No, it is not. And as that old adage goes, Preeti, the fastest way for a billionaire to become a millionaire in India is to set up an airline. Vijay Mallya is one of those who has learned that very bitter lesson. But that's like a broader point to the point that you make.
But, Pooja, would you want to weigh in? And I'll circle back to you, Rajdeep, because is this an aviation problem or is this an Air India problem? Many of us who've traveled by Air India, especially in the last 6 months after the takeover, have seen multiple issues. Social media has been aflush with issues pertaining to Air India and the aircrafts. No, not at all are we suggesting that there's any link to what happened on the 12th of June on issues with Air India. But there were questions earlier as well. But, Pooja, a stampede happens, an accident happens, a train accident happens. Immediately we call for accountability. A train accident happens, you have the opposition gunning and baying for, the railway minister to step down. Should accountability be fixed, and in what manner should it be fixed?
In this case, Air India crash, when we talk about accountability, what does it mean? This airline this time was not under state ownership. It was bought in 2022 by the Tatas. There was Boeing involved here as well. Singapore Airlines has been an investor. There are multiple layers to it. So when we talk about accountability, we could see changes coming in. I understand if this was a government airline, so to say, you could immediately ask for resignations, for asking how the government has done it. But here you'll have to again find out first what exactly happened. Multiple players are involved, including international ones. And that's when you talk about accountability, you'll have to decide who does it fall on. If we talk about the Tata Sons, they already have the Jaguar Land Rover, the Techie Sons, or Boeing. Again. And with Boeing, the Dreamliners have had a good record. Then what happened? So are you then telling me multiple factors are involved in the failure of this? Because why I add on here, Preeti, it's very interesting. The USA chopper recently, the mid-air collision that happened with a passenger jet, or the Malaysian Airlines twin disasters that happened about 10 years ago. It was focused on the incident. When it happens in a case like India, like this one, this air crash happened, it becomes about India. Is India failing at it? India doesn't do maintenance. I saw a lot of racist comments that had come in international media on the comments widely circulating. And that bothers me, that suddenly this is about India, of how it's a country that doesn't do anything. Are we therefore jumping the gun before a conclusion has come in?